Wow. If you're a fan of long lenses, which I must confess I am, then the Photography Show 2014 is definitely the place to be. This is, I think, the largest lens that I've seen here at the Photography Show so far, and it's here on the Sigma stand. Someone who can tell me a bit more about this and some other very interesting lenses as well is Ray Fitchett. Hi Ray, how are you doing?
Hi Dave, pleased to see you.
So this is an extraordinary lens, the likes of which I've never seen before. Can you give me a bit of a background to it, please?
Well, it is a specialist lens. It was initially just a sort of a mock-up of a specialist lens designed for surveillance purposes. We were approached by some very strange gentlemen who wanted to know more about it. And in the end, we, in partnership with the MOD and through one of the retailers, Calumet, got involved in a long process of what do they need, how do they want to use it. And we then produced a series of lenses with converters that will give this fantastic range.
So tell me about the range, about the specs on this lens, please.
The basic spec is that it's a 200 to 500 millimeter f2.8.
Nice and fast then.
Very fast, and obviously for that reason it has to be very big and very large, but a lot of that is down to the durability and the strength of the construction, because you can imagine with it being for military use, it goes to some very strange places. But also they wanted a requirement that it could be used quickly, lined up on the target area, and for that reason on the top of the handle there is actually a gun sight. Yeah, that area there. And of course when they got it on what we call a gimbal in the back of a short wheelbase Land Rover, they can locate the target, drop the camouflage netting down, take several shots, usually on a Nikon D4 or a D3, and then quickly down with the camouflage and go away. They also insisted they wanted to get an increased range. So we then designed a matched 2x converter. So it's not like the ordinary converters you would buy. It's processed particularly to work with this lens and configured to work with this lens. So in the configuration it's at in the moment with a converter on the back, that gives you up to 1,000 millimeter f5.6. So you can imagine you're photographing some suspects at a quarter of a mile distance. The detail, I mean, you can only take my word from it, is just phenomenal. It really is incredible, sharp, contrasty and high definition.
So I was wondering about the colouring of the lenses, because some of the manufacturers with their lenses tend to go for bright colours, and I understand that that's sometimes to do with heat dissipation and so on. This one here is more camouflagey.
Basically, yes. Well, the initial one we did was black, and I would have thought that would have been wonderful. But apparently the eye responds to the green spectrum most of all, and if you've got something that adds contrast, it can be spotted from a distance. So the green is a particular colour green which matches in with the camouflage nettings they use on the protection areas, and therefore it blends into the background and nobody notices it. You'll also notice there's a massive lens hood at the front. It takes up the first 6 inches of the lens, and the reason for that is that the front optic doesn't reflect light back out for people seeing a flashing of sunlight on it. So very clever, and thank you very much to the MOD for helping us. I can't tell you how many we sold, but let's say I was a very happy man when Calumet got me the first order for it.
Well, when you said some strange men approached you asking for a long lens,
I wonder, yes.
Well, I thought maybe you were talking about some red top newspapers or something, but
yeah, but no, that's been one of the exceptional things. But I say, obviously, Sigma are very much a manufacturer for the consumer and the professional, but this is a niche area.
Is this a lens that I could pop over to Calumet or any of the other retailers and buy, and if so?
Generally, although they would get them from us, they wouldn't carry them in stock. There are a few companies who actually have bought them to hire. Hire a Camera, one of the big pretensions. They're very much with Nikon, Canon, Sony and ourselves. And they did get a demand for lenses like the 300 to 800, the 200 to 500. And over the years, the past 8-10 years, have developed a good range of Sigma that we encourage people before they buy from a retailer to try before you buy. And that's reached a good reaction from the retailers, because they don't have to worry about demo stock. It means that the people are actually paying a small fee to test the product out.
Go on then, hit me with it. Talking about fees and trying before buying, what sort of money are we looking at for this?
Originally, you were talking of £23,000 a lens, but the way that Sigma works, it comes down to production levels. The more you produce, then effectively the price will come down. And for that reason, Sigma generally is more affordable than any other company. If you look at the big OEM companies, they make them possibly by hand. They can be many, many thousands of pounds, but Sigma with an equivalent model can be proportionately cheaper, based on the fact that we do Canon, Nikon, Sony, Pentax in some cases, Sigma own brand of course, because we do our own range of cameras. And the reason for that is that the same components are used apart from the rear mount section and the electronics. So economies of scale means we can be less expensive.
So looking at some of these other lenses as well, what else have you got on display here at the photography show?
Another MOD success, but very popular with the sports and nature photographers, is a Zoom 300 to 800 f5.6. Again, specialist, I mean the average amateur would probably hire it rather than buy it, because it's about £5,500 from most of the dealers. But it gives you the opportunity, and we do a prime 800mm example of it, of having a long lens that for birding, sports and nature will give you at an affordable price an incredible stunning image. And again, compared to the MOD market, they are using this again for surveillance purposes. But we'll move away from the MOD as such, because of course the majority of the work we do is in fact for the average consumer, as I mentioned earlier. We do prime lenses like the 500mm f4.5, so it's in the same vein. You'll notice the same body shell as that. But recently we developed the range. There's been a change in the senior management of the company. The gentleman who founded the company 53 years ago, Michihiro Yamaki, regrettably died of pancreatic cancer about a year ago, and his son, called Kazuto, has taken over as chief executive. And everybody talked about his father with great reverence. He was a real gentleman and an innovator, and he's won industry awards for that very fact. Kazuto-san's come along and he's now developed what we call the Global Vision range. And this is one of the examples, and bear in mind we're looking at the longer lenses here, but this is a new type of lens, a 120 to 300 f2.8 zoom.
So I'm just going to 120 to 300, okay. Yeah.
Now bear in mind that most of the other manufacturers will only do a 300mm prime. So this gives this added flexibility. The dangers with that, of course, is that you compromise sometimes with a zoom the quality of the end result, not with this lens, and there's several reasons for that. With all what we call the Global Vision range, which started off 18 months ago, they're using a new body shell. It's called TSC.
And what TSC, what's that about?
Thermally stable composite. Sounds a bit poncy, but effectively what it is a new engineering material, has a tensile strength of steel. It can be machined to very, very fine tolerances. So when you're producing a product like this, in engineering terms, the reaction of the way you handle it is far, far better than ever before. It's also better weather sealed. And it means that the product itself, because you can, in some of the cases, make the lenses smaller and lighter, you're getting a more compact and a more portable system. The other thing about this type of product, let's say this Global Vision range, is that you can actually tune the lens. We do a little adapter which fits on the back of the lens and connects with the electronics within inside the lens. It's called a USB hub. And basically that will then connect to your computer. And the benefit of that is that for firmware updates, let's say there's a new camera comes from Canon, Nikon, Pentax, whoever, you can automatically link into the Sigma website. It will recognize the lens on the serial number and tell you which one it is. And it will tell you whether it's got the latest firmware update, because as you get new cameras launched, they may have different configurations. So that's the first thing, where in the past you would have had to return the lens to a service center. No longer with this one.
Lenses having their own software updates, that's firmware updates.
Microchip world, and this actually has a chip inside it that can take that information. But I say the remarkable thing is you can do it yourself. But it doesn't end there. Because no, it doesn't. One of the remarkable facts is that rather like buying a high-end sports car, you want to adjust it, tune it to the way that you want to do photography.
So what sort of tuning mechanisms do you have?
Let's take first of all the autofocus. You can increase or decrease the speed of the way the autofocus works. Sounds silly, but if you're doing macro work, you want the focus to act in a smooth and gentle manner. If you're doing sports and nature where the subject's moving very, very fast, then you want it to act instantaneously. So that gives you one option. But there's also a focus limiter, so you can set the range that the lens works to in the zoom mode, where if you know you're working, let's say, from 30 to 70 meters, you can actually select that range on the lens so that the lens doesn't have to go all the way out to infinity and back to the closest focus point, so it speeds things up.
Very clever, actually. I can see why that would be very useful.
Well, there's even another feature. I don't know if you've heard of back focus or forward focus. Whatever anybody has got the most expensive camera, you do get variations of where the sensor is placed in the body by micro amounts, but it means that when you're actually focusing on a model on the eye, if it's a centimetre out, that affects the way your photograph appears. And for that reason, most of the modern cameras do have what we call micro adjustment for the focus point. But using that same USB adapter, With a zoom like this, you can actually set the true focus point to your camera up to 4 different positions through the zoom range. So when you talk about precise focus, this is absolutely spot on. It's amazing. I would also point out that if you make a mistake in altering all the configuration of the lens, there is a silly button where you press it and it goes back to manufacturer's.
Manufacturer reset, very handy indeed. So coming back to more about Sigma in general, really, I mean, obviously people make a choice to buy Sigma lenses above sometimes manufacturers' own lenses. Why would they do that? Is it just a value proposition? Is it a value thing? Or?
So. I mean, we've always been looked on as being less expensive. Yeah. I move away from the word cheap because it's not true. We're a manufacturer who are based in Japan. We don't produce anywhere else. The Yamaki family have always insisted that the people they have working for them, and in fact in the factory in Aizu, I've met 3 generations of the same family working for the Yamaki family in our location, which is up in the mountains in northern Japan. A lot of the big companies, of course, will try and keep costs down by manufacturing in Thailand, Taiwan, Hong Kong, China, etc. It's something we will never do, or what I'm told we'll never do. We've also, at times, penalised ourselves by not opening extra production lines in the short term and concentrating and keeping the business steady through the company. So, as I mentioned, it's a family business. The Yamaki family own the company. We don't have the problems of the corporate entity telling you the shareholders have got a requirement, you must do this. This is the fashion of the moment. They tend to be very, what's the word I'm looking for? Interested in doing something a little bit different, which is where this new system came in. And before I forget, there is one other feature about this new series of lenses, by the way.
Far away.
MCS.
MCS.
Yeah, sounds like a degree from a university. It stands for Mount...
A degree in dyslexia, perhaps?
Well, possibly, especially with somebody like me. At Mount Conversion Service, if you buy the lens based on the quality, which we believe people will do, this latest range of lenses outperform a lot of the OEM camera brand products. So you might want to keep the lens if you change your camera system. So what we will do for a charge, we'll go back to our service department, we'll dismantle the rear section that's got the configuration for the camera that you've got at the moment, and you may change to Sony or Nikon, and you've already got Canon fit. So for a charge, we will reconfigure the lens, clean it, reassemble it, and warranty it.
That's more cost effective than buying a whole new lens. And it's
a lens here, which is about £2,800 on the street. You've got 6 or 7 lenses and you change your camera system, generally you'd have to change the whole lot.
And that can be very expensive if you're a photographer who's looking at changing the system that you're working with.
Well, again, I've got to stress, but I believe it's very much down to the fact that we want the quality to be right on this product. You know, if we're producing something that is better than anybody else's, that offers the definition, the uniqueness, the additional specifications and features that we're offering in some of our lenses these days, then we hope the person who's bought it wants to keep it. So it's a service that we're not going to get many people using, but those that do will find it invaluable.
Well, I tell you what, Ray, you've given us a terrific tour of all of your lenses here. Just finally, how have you found the photography show so far? Has it been an interesting experience? Have you had a good footfall about your stand?
My first reaction when I heard that Mary, of course, were giving up Focus and this was going to be a new show, a totally new show, was a little bit of a skepticism. I mean, I've done 25 shows at the NEC over the years. I go back to, 1969 for my first job in the industry. Yesterday, when the show opened, I was absolutely in awe at the volume of people who were coming through the door. And I have to say, the quality of the customer, I know that sounds daft, but I mean, generally at a big show, you can end up getting some really, shall we say, amateurs who are just here for the fun of it. People who want to see the models but don't want to see the equipment. The amount of business that I think most people have done, I mean, we're opposite a key retailer. We've got Camera World, London Camera Exchange, Calumet I mentioned earlier. Every one of those stands has been selling. But the punter, I'm sorry if I use that term, it sounds derogatory, but the consumer, if you can call it that, has come along to all the manufacturers' stands. They've handled the equipment, made a value decision, then they've found the very best pricing, in some cases far better than you get on the high street.
Well, there are lots of show specials here as well, aren't there?
Yeah, well, remarkably, we've got a couple of initiatives at the moment where we're doing cashbacks on certain lenses, but coupled with the prices done by the retailers, and let's be fair, this is a special show, people want show offers, the business has been phenomenal. So, I mean, I started off at 23 stone yesterday morning. I'm down to about 20 now, and that's down to the sheer work. We don't get a break. It's a full day, but boy, are we enjoying it.
It's a full 4 days. There's the professional days as well as the consumer days.
Yeah, well, half of the show's gone by, what, half an hour. But there's also a social aspect. To meet with the other stand managers, the staff, speak to people. I mean, I had a very quick walk round earlier to see the areas like the catwalk, the garden for nature photography. There's been a lot of thought put into this show. And as I say, originally there was such a scepticism because I've seen things go badly wrong in the past. But Future Publishing, magazine group, they know what they're doing. They put a lot of effort, a lot of money. I would suggest it's going to take them 2 or 3 years to start getting this absolutely right. I mean, the carpet is a key point. Johnny last night mentioned it. But the people make it worthwhile. And say thank you very much to Future Publishing.
Well, thank you very much to you, Ray Fitchett from Sigma Imaging. It's been a terrific tour of your stand. Hope you continue to have a good time here, and hopefully see you again next year.
Well, there's more to talk about because, as I say, if you get a chance later in the week, we've got the new Quattro camera coming with a Foveon sensor. And we also have developed, using the Foveon sensor, what's called an MTF testing system, which we individually test all the global vision lenses that come off the production line. So if you've got more time, please feel free to come back.
Thank you very much again, Ray.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.